David Morris. I came to Budapest in Hungary at the end of the Cold War, and what a shock it was to see the difference in lifestyle, the difference in life opportunities between people who lived in the East and people who lived in the West. There was a Berlin Wall, but there was a real Iron Curtain until 1989. And so what we saw when we came to places like Hungary after 1989 was there had been a total lack of development. The buildings of Budapest looked like nothing had happened. Nothing had been renovated, no money had been spent on buildings since the Second World War or since the 1956 revolution. Buildings were still full of bullet holes and damaged. People looked desperate, and they were desperate. They were rushing to Austria to go and shop. They were leaving their little Trabant cars, if they'd been lucky enough to have a car, at the side of the road, and they would walk across the border into Vienna and use the cash that they had collected from their illegal work to go and buy a Mercedes on the other side of the border. There was actually a thriving grey economy, but there was a totally dysfunctional official economy in Hungary, just as there was in Poland and East Germany, and of course the Soviet Union itself, because what the system meant in the old Soviet bloc was that the party state, the bureaucrats, sat in offices and determined where production was going to happen, where jobs were going to be, where people were allowed to work, and what they were allowed to have, and the opportunities they had in life were all decided by bureaucrats. That's the system that we've kind of forgotten about, I think, because you don't recognise that when you come to Hungary or Poland today, but it wasn't that long ago. And the end of the Cold War allowed these countries to develop market-based economies, just as the countries of Asia were already doing, and was perhaps a contributing factor to why the Soviet Union collapsed, was the fact that countries all around the world were embracing what we call the free market. And you know, every country has its own version of the free market, and perhaps after the end of the Cold War, places like the US and UK went too far. Wall Street had so much unregulated power that of course it ended up crashing the global economy in 2008. So we probably went too far with our excess of free market after the end of the Cold War, but the opportunities that the market brings are opportunities that everyone around the world recognises. Now, there were other things that happened after the end of the Cold War that affected our politics, our international relations. I'll talk about those at other times.